Welcome back to another episode on the species in news. And in this today's particular video, we will be discussing two important species. One is the famous or Olus spiny frog, which is in news, and another species for today is the gray Indian wolf. Right? So, two of these species are in news for their own reasons. Well, Ola's spiny frog was recently found in the Vietnam and is very unique because of a particular characteristic that we will be discussing in this video. So, even before that, let's talk about its habitat. It is mostly found in the northern Vietnam, related to species in southern China, and even some of it is even also found in the Himalayas as well. It inhabits especially in the fast flowing and rocky streams within the evergreen forests. Usually, it is a frog, it is an amphibian, and amphibians are those which prefer to stay both even in the waters and even in the terrestrial ground, right? So this particular species of frog is mostly seen in the northern Vietnam and also in the southern China and also parts of Himalayas, right? And talking about the unique features, key features, it is a large stout amphibian, and another striking feature is the presence of spines in the bodies of male frogs of this Olus spiny male species. They develop, especially the male frogs, develop a spiny tubercles on chest, throat, and arms, especially during breeding, and they appear dark in color, especially a dark brown body with yellowish mottling, and has dark green eyes and a white belly. So these are the two unique striking feature of this particular species of frog. And talking about its unique traits, it has a heart-shaped tongue and partially webbed toes. So this is also an important feature with respect to this particular species. Now talking about its significance, as we all know, frogs, they play a very important role in maintaining the food web, right, and also as a whole in ensuring that biodiversity richness is maintained, right? So even here as well, when we talk about this particular frog, the first significance or the first important point is with respect to biodiversity, as it highlights amphibian richness of Southeast Asia, right? It even talks about how rich the amphibian families presence is there in the Southeast Asia. And talking about all the other amphibians, we should also be able to think of few amphibians which are in news, even with respect to India for that matter. So uh, apart from the Olus spiny frog, which is from Vietnam, we have few from India, especially Western Ghats. Even these are also in news because UPSC may ask questions giving you all the names of the different frogs, and probably trying to ask if this is indigenous to India or if this natural habitat is in India or not, right? So one is the Olus spiny frog, which we discussed. Then next is the one that is also in news is with respect to a frog species is the resplendent shrub frog. So this is also in news, and this is mostly found in the Western Ghats region, and also in the same Western Ghats we have another species of purple frog, right? Of course, all these are found mostly in India, especially the Western Ghats. And then we also have Indian golden back frog, the Indian golden black frog, right? So this is endemic to southwestern Ghats completely. It is endemic to the southern part of the Western Ghats, and it is mostly dependent on the stream side habitats, pretty much like the one that we are discussing right now. And talking about the IUCN, most of it is all either vulnerable or endangered or critically endangered, right? So that is all for this particular species, the Olus spiny frog. Now, before we move on to the next topic, let's solve one prelims question. With reference to the Olus spiny frog, recently discovered in Vietnam, consider the following statements. Statement 1, it inhabits in fast flowing rocky streams and evergreen forests. 2, males develop prominent spines on their body during the breeding season. And statement number 3, it is found only in the Himalayan foothills of India. So which of the statements are correct? Please use the comment section and leave your answers below. Now, second up, it's the Indian grey wolf. It is also one of the most important species to be studied, because recently there were a lot of news about the conservation of the Indian grey wolf, and also the second conservation or wildlife sanctuary for the conservation of grey wolf was established in Karnataka. So that was also pretty much in news. And also recently, the breeding after the breeding season, few of the puppies, approximately around 8 pups, were born from this grey wolf species. So of course, a lot of things are happening in and around. So it is better that we slightly try and know about this particular species. So what are the general features of this particular species? It is a subspecies of grey wolf found in Southwest Asia and also Indian subcontinent. And in terms of its appearance, it's intermediate in size between the Tibetan and the Arabian wolves. Matlab, it's not even as gigantic as Tibetan wolves, or as small as Arabian wolves, but it is somewhere in the middle, right? And even in terms of the coat, right? Even if you see the fur of this particular species, it is not as thick as what we usually see, right? It lacks thick winter coat, which is pretty obvious that it is adapted to the the warmer climatic conditions. Then talking about its behavior, it hunts in small packs, and we all know that one of the biggest example of packs is the foxes, right? The fox and wolves. They are mostly pack animals, means they reside in pack, right? And usually the pack, which has about 8 to 10 different wolves, will have a pack leader, right? Who is like the alpha male of the pack, right? So this is what the pack means, right? So they hunt in small packs, and they are less vocal than other wolf species. This is also one important feature, means they are not as loud as other species of wolves, but they are very less vocal. And primarily they are nocturnal, which means they hunt from dusk to dawn. And talking about the habitat and distribution, they prefer scrublands like the ones you see in the Deccan Plateau region, right? Even the Aravali hills of Rajasthan, and even the moving down south, we have the Rayalaseema region near the Andhra Pradesh, right? So basically, it is the scrublands where we can find this, and also it is found in the grasslands, like the ones in the Gujarat region, right? The bunny grasslands, and then the sterile grasslands of Uttarakhand or UP or Bihar, and these are the basic habitat regions of this particular species. And then you can also find them in semi-arid agro ecosystems. So what is semi-arid agro ecosystems? Basically, these are human modified landscapes, right? So these are human modified landscapes which are semi-arid, right? And basically cultivated lands and fallow fields intermixed with shrub and all these thorny bushes form these kind of lands. And one of the examples in India is you can find this in most of the areas, especially few villages in Deccan Plateau region, right? Even dryland farming regions of Maharashtra, Telangana, Madhya Pradesh, right? So these are the examples. So talking about its habitat, it's mostly found in these areas. And talking about the distribution, from Israel in the west to Indian subcontinent in the east, we can find this particular species. So you can see the spans, right? So it is pretty much covering an extreme range of area, right? And talking about the apex predator in India's grassland, regulating ecological balance. So it is considered as one of the key predators, right? The apex top predators in India's grassland, regulating ecological balance. So it keeps a check on the growth of other species, and it maintains the ecological balance and also regulating the food chain or the food web, right? So talking about the threats, one is the feral dogs. Feral dogs are usually a kind of dog species, but they are not domesticated. So earlier species of feral dogs were domesticated traditionally, but over the period of time, these feral dogs have pretty much become wild, and is kind of pretty much they work on their natural survival instincts to hunt and kill, right? So basically they are dogs, but they are not domesticated, but they are pretty much wild. So one of the huge threat is through the feral dogs, because of this predation competition, right? Because even the presence of these feral dogs in the same habitat of wolves will have less chance, or will create less chance for the wolf to kind of hunt, right? So provided there is very limited other preys. For example, the all the animals that the wolf feed on, or these feral dogs feed on. Now let's say we have both these apex predators in the same area with very limited prey quantity, right? So then obviously it becomes very difficult for the wolf to survive, or even these feral dogs to survive. So there is this predation competition, right? And then the disease transmission, example, canine distemper virus, right? And also hybridization, genetic dilution, because chances are that these feral dogs and wolf can even mate and breed. And talking about another threat is the habitat loss and fragmentation due to agriculture or development by the human activities. Now talking about the conservation status, it and under the IUCN red list, it is classified as least concern globally but endangered in India. Population is varying between 2,000 to 3,000. And according to CITES, it falls under Appendix 1, means trade is prohibited. And then under the Wildlife Protection Act 1972, it falls under Schedule 1, which requires highest protection. And talking about the protected areas in India, one is the Bankapur Wolf Sanctuary. This is the second wolf sanctuary in India after the first one, Mahadan in the Jharkhand, which was earlier created in 1976. And next is the Kadbanwadi grassland in Maharashtra, which spans about 2,000 acres, which is inhabited by wolves, Bengal fox, the striped hyena, Brahmini kite, etc. Right? So these are the two important protected areas also, which you have to keep in mind. And as we discussed recently, it recorded birth of 8 wolf pups, so which was in news recently, and hence we are studying about this particular species, right? So moving forward, the forest and policy context not much important, but still we will just look at it. Maharashtra Forest Rules 2014 allows the removal of feral dogs from the reserves where the uh, wolf species are also present, just to ensure that the predation competition is eliminated, right? So this is one of the move by the Maharashtra Forest Department, where they have ordered the removal of feral dogs from the same territory where these wolves are present, so that the predation competition does not exist. And then talking about the implementation challenge, officials reluctant due to animal rights concern, vaccination of dogs suggested but difficult. Yeah. Now let's say they want to move these feral dogs out of this territory. So obviously animal rights activists and animal rights concerns comes to the picture, right? And also even this is pretty much in news with respect to the Supreme Court orders to rehabilitate or completely shift the stray dogs in Delhi and in parts of India, right? Even that is also important, pay attention to it. And then at the end of the day, it reflects human domestic wildlife conflict and potential zoonotic risks, right? So not much important from the conservation point of, as in from the species point of view, but yeah, it's okay, good to know. Now moving on to the prelims question. With reference to the Indian grey wolf, consider the following statements. It is primarily found in tropical forests of Western Ghats. It hunts in small packs and is less vocal compared to other subwolf subspecies. In India, it is protected under Schedule 1 of the Wildlife Protection Act 1972, and globally it is listed as critically endangered in the IUCN Red List. Which of the statements given are correct? Use the comment section. Please leave your answers. Anyway, that's all for today's video. So for more such interesting content, please do subscribe Believers IAS YouTube channel. Signing off, this is Madan Gopal. Have a beautiful day.